Hi, Paul here. Today I'm going to put together a tutorial on the guitar work of the great Andy Taylor in the song The Reflex by the also great Duran Duran. This tutorial was requested by Paul, who's also a big Andy Taylor fan like myself and also a big Duran Duran fan like myself. Now there's quite a few different versions, mixes of this song, but what I'm going to go through is the studio version as requested by Paul. I'm going to do the single version which was released and actually got to #1 in the US. So for reference, if you look on YouTube and look for Duran Duran The Reflex official music video, that will be the one that I'm working to, which is 4 minutes 29 seconds long. So enjoy! Okay, so I'm going to start now with the first verse, and I've got an essentially clean sound. It's got a bit of chorus in there, it's also got a bit of reverb, but on the whole clean. Now what I'm going to do for this first verse is split it up into 4 segments, each of them different, and what we'll find is if we concentrate on these to begin with, we'll find that later on in future verses they're just variations on a theme or repetitions, so we'll just spend a little extra time on these. Okay, so this first pattern of the first verse, which I'm now about to go through, we'll call it pattern A, starts around 21 seconds and it goes like this. Okay, so I went through that twice, but the pattern actually repeats 4 times at the beginning of the first verse. And basically what we're doing is doing these funky rhythms in 3 separate places. So we're doing it at 3rd fret with a bar with the first finger over the B and the E string. We're also doing it at the 5th fret, another bar over the first 2 strings, the B and the E strings. And we're also doing a bar here at the 6th fret with the 4th finger again over the B and E strings. So the whole of that rhythm, the whole of that pattern is combinations of that, that and that. 1st finger bar, 3rd finger bar and the 4th finger bar. Okay, now I'm playing the rhythm with some punch and I'm relaxing my finger to get a staccato effect. Okay, so I'll just play through that slowly. So it's 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Right, it's possible to also play that if you don't like using the bar with the 4th and 3rd fingers, it might be tricky, I don't know. You could go 2, 3, 4. So all I'm doing there is obviously the same pattern, but instead of playing the 4th finger bar, 3rd finger bar, back to the 1st finger bar, I'm just sliding up and doing those bars with the 1st finger, so that's possible. I prefer it just feels easier to play and I don't even have to look or think about moving up to here. My fingers just move to those positions. So that's the first pattern. That will be repeated later with a slight variation. Okay, so now we come to the second part of the first verse. We'll call it part B for argument's sake, and what we get here is done that twice there, but that's actually repeated 4 times. Okay, so as you'll note, we're doing that, but it begins with and what that is a slide all the way from the G or the 15th fret on the E string, okay, all the way down to the 3rd fret. So we basically go sliding down an octave. We're going from G there all the way down to the G there, from the 15th to the 3rd fret, and it needs to be an even slide as well. Yeah, you don't want to, you know, go slow there and then fast there, or go fast there and then slow there. It's got to be as even as possible. And also, when he plays the 15th fret, he lets that ring, because we apply the pressure and go all the way down. But then when we get down to the G, we play it and release the pressure and give it a bit of a whack to really get some percussive sound out of it. So we go, yeah. Now you could use your 2nd finger or your 1st finger to do this slide. Depends on what you prefer. I think when I play this live, I tend to go from a 2nd finger, and then when I get to here, I just go to the 1st finger. I don't know why. It's just good for me. I quite like it. I find when I'm playing live, to be able to get that 2nd finger under there while I'm moving about, I just find it easier than going with the 1st finger for some reason. I don't know why, but anyhow, 1st or 2nd. I'll use the 1st for now, but we go down to there, and then we basically play almost the same rhythm as we played before. So we go, so slide, bar at the 3rd fret, slide on that on the G, and then play the 6th, the 5th, and the 3rd fret double stops. So we get, yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, and 4. Yeah, I'll play that slow. Now you'll also notice, amidst all those stabs, I'd got some more of the sort of dead and funky notes going on. So we'll just observe those now. And in some ways, it doesn't matter when you do those dead notes what you're playing around here, as long as you're sort of deadening and getting sort of a nice chucker sound coming out. It's not it doesn't matter whether you're doing that on those strings or on the first 3 strings. It's sort of, in some ways it don't matter, as long as you're getting something out. Because it is a excuse me, it is quite a tricky manoeuvre to go from there to there, start to move, put your finger across the frets so that they're just deadening them, playing the chucker chucker, then actually play those 2 notes barred. It's a bit tricky. Yeah. Okay, so that's the 2nd part of the 1st verse. Okay, so the next section, the 3rd section of the 1st verse, involves some muted notes which Andy plays, and it adds some extra punch to the keyboards that are being played at that point, and it goes something like this. Okay, so what we're doing, we're bouncing our fingers off the first the G string, and then off the D string. Okay, so on the G string we've got open, 2nd fret, open, 4th fret, open, 5th fret, open, 4th fret, open, 2nd fret, open, 2nd fret, 4th fret, open, 5th fret, open, 4th fret, open, and then we move on to the 4th string, and we're playing the 3rd fret, open, 5th fret, open, 7th fret, open, 5th fret, open, and finish on 3rd, and then we're playing this figure up here, which is basically a 2 C notes and a G, which is basically that shape, which is a bar with the 4th finger at the 1st fret over the D and E strings, and then we can put our 3rd finger here at the 5th fret of the 3rd string. That gives us a punchy stab. Yeah, so we got, putting that together, you get and the thing to make sure you do is play it nice and evenly and punctually, but to put a little bit of dampening on those strings, because what you don't want is this, or what you want is to just give it enough dampening that it adds some punch to the notes and makes them staccato, but you can still hear, and that's the key, you can still hear what the note is. You don't want it just to be a dampening. You want to actually hear the note by just putting the minimum amount of dampening using your palm here. So instead of it being open, that string, I'm just putting a little bit of pressure there and getting this percussive effect. So what I end up getting is when you play this chord at the end of it, need to play it and get the dampening by using the fingers. So I go, which is played with complete pressure across the strings, but just at the end I'll take my fingers off, and that will give it the sort of punch at the end of it. So at the end I'm just taking my pressure off, so just playing through that again slowly. Yeah, and that's that section. Then we get a gap of 2 bars where the keys just play on their own. Then we get that staccato section, the muted notes, we get that repeated another 3 times. Okay, so it's just identical, the same notes on repeated 3 times again. Okay, so the final 4th section of that first verse is just before the chorus at about 1 minute 18 seconds, and it's just some funky rhythm played on the G note, which is the bottom G, which is the 3rd fret of the E string. Okay, just played with the first finger, and it only lasts 2 bars, but it's just a resolution of the verse so we can get into the chorus. Okay, and it goes like this. So we're doing some interplay between notes that you can hear and some ghost notes where I'm just releasing the pressure off the string just enough to get. I'm going between notes which are played fairly fully, so you can hear that it's a G, but then just taking the minimum amount of pressure off. I don't know if you can see that, just the minimum amount of pressure off, just to get that funky percussive sound where you can't actually hear what the note is. So I'm going. And that follows the keyboards, because you'll notice the keyboards has got that sort of driving rhythm as well. So that then leads us into the chorus. Okay, so what I'm doing here is playing a chord, but it's just an octave. All it is to begin with the C, which is the 3rd fret of the A string, and then I put my 4th finger on the 5th string of the 5th fret of the G string, and I'm dampening the D string, which is in the middle, which isn't being fretted. All that's happening is I'm using my first finger. Instead of just fretting that and letting the D string ring, I'm I'm bringing my finger over and just lightly deadening it. So instead of the D string sounding like that, it sounds like that, which is totally dead, and I can get a percussive attack. So now when I play those two notes with the first and fourth finger, I can hit the D string and I know I'm not going to get any sound out other than a percussive element, which is what we want, because that's what we're really doing with this part in the chorus. We're just putting some dynamics and getting some punch into that section. So I'm playing those and sliding up. I can punch them as much as I want, and I won't really hear that D string other than the mute. Okay, so I'm going, slide it up again, slide it back down again, but now I'm moving both of them down 1 fret. So I start in the initial position, move them up 2 frets, both of them in unison, both of them, move them back down in unison 2 frets to the original position, and then move them down 1 fret such that I finish with the first finger on the 2nd fret of the A string and the 4th finger on the 4th fret of the G string. So I'll just play that again. Then repeat that again. So I'm finishing on basically a power chord of G. So I've got my 1st fret on the E string 1st fret, and I've got my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, and I've got my 4th finger on the 3rd fret of the D string. So just to play a simple power chord, I'm just playing that figure there, and basically that rhythm and those notes follows the sort of vocal, background vocals, which are going ta na na na, ta na na na. Yeah, so they're going etc, etc, ending on a yeah. So yeah, it's really effective, quite simple. Certainly, I would say a bit easier than what's going on in the verses where you're doing the funky strumming, but just so supremely effective. Okay, so now we come to the 2nd verse, and this starts off at about 1 minute 52 seconds, and basically we're going to repeat twice the pattern that we saw in the 1st verse, which is the one with the slides, which was I think it was the 2nd section in the 1st verse that we looked at. So it's the one with the slides, so it goes. So we repeat that, okay. Then we come at around 2 minutes, we come to another verse variation, and it's similar to the first pattern we learned in the 1st verse. If you remember that one, that one went 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. This one is almost identical, but instead of having a and then this long pause before we play the next bit, it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all I'm doing there, as I said, is I'm playing the same finger in everything as the first pattern in the 1st verse, but I'm just going to go from that bar which we had in the previous one. I'm going to go. All I'm doing is moving that down, so I'm barring with my 1st finger the B and the E at the 1st fret. So I'm going. So I'll just do that slow. Simple as that. Really, really effective stuff. It's brilliant throughout the whole song. The arrangement of the song is just absolutely wonderful. But yeah, it's just all about timing. It's all about getting the timing right, and all about using the correct pressure to get those those funky dampening parts going, because that just adds, well, it does two things actually. It just has this percussive effect which works really well and makes things sound funky, but it also helps with your timing, because this arm, instead of it sort of stopping and doing literally nothing until it has to literally play notes again, you get you're able to get the tap out the rhythm with these funky notes. Yeah, so it's good practice to get into anyhow. And that's the end of the second section of verse 2. Okay, so what we get next is a repetition of the muted staccato notes that we had in the first section. If you remember, it's there's three of them, okay? Identical to the first verse. We then get a gap of 8 bars, which is keyboards for 8 bars, no guitar whatsoever. And then at 2 minutes 41, we get that sort of pre-chorus muted funky G, which is the 3rd fret of the E string, which again it only lasts 2 bars, but it just leads lovely into the chorus as a resolution to the start of the second verse. Okay, so now we're on the second chorus, which in terms of the patterns of what's played is exactly the same as the first one, and he goes through that twice, so I'll just quickly go through it once just for a reminder. And it goes okay, so what we've got now is at 3 minutes 15 seconds we get the 2 repetitions of the pattern that we saw earlier, which has got the slides going from the 5th fret down to the 3rd fret on the low E string. Yeah, so we get that twice. Then we get a gap of 4 bars where there's no guitar. Then we get the section with muted notes repeated again at 3 minutes 30. Now this starts, as I say, around 3 minutes 30, and you get the way ya 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 ya, which is the Simon Le Bon singing way ya 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 ya. Now there's an overdub. You've got the muted notes going on at exactly that same point, so you've got but on the way ya 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 ya, you've also got this going on. It's a small point, but it's in the studio version where they can overdub to the heart's content. But I might as well mention it just for some forensic accuracy. And what I'm doing here, I'm playing part of an A minor chord. I'm just playing a bar at the 5th fret on the B and E strings at the 5th fret, so it's just that. And again, I'm playing it, funkily, in the sense that I'm stabbing, I'm playing the note and then releasing pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and that's at the same point where the muted notes start. It'd be impossible to play them all together, obviously, so it's just an overdub. Then after the muted notes have repeated 3 times, at 3 minutes 41 seconds, we get that pre-chorus 2 bars of the G chord again, which is the sort of resolution to get us back into the chorus. At the 3rd fret of the E string, so again we get this 2 bars of this going. Yeah, with that sort of giving it that funky staccato-ness. Okay, so now we come to the final chorus, and it's played in an identical fashion to what we've seen previously, and it goes like this. Okay, so I played that pattern through once there, but at the end of the song it's repeated 3 times before the song comes to its conclusion as it finally fades out. And that completes the song. One thing worth noting is that Andy uses a fairly clean sound in the verses and a high gain sound in the chorus. However, when it's played live, you'll find that Andy plays pretty much a consistent high gain sound throughout the whole thing. So maybe look at something like the Reflex in the Live Aid version, and you'll see that. So that concludes the video. I hope you found that useful, Paul, and can put that into practice. And I'll see you again. Bye.